Hello and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Tonight we are joined by Bethany Frost. Welcome, Bethany. How are you this evening?
I'm doing fairly well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. Are you anywhere with where we're having all this heat?
Um, I'm in Kansas, so our weather kind of does its own thing. Yesterday it downpoured all day. Today's been
Ah,
very humid, so
very humid. Oh, it's in the 90s here, and it is the heat from hell.
yeah, I was in Deadwood last week where like the high was 80. Like if you went down to Rapid City, my
hmm
friends live up in Hill City, so it was like 60s. So I'm like, oh, this is, it's
Oh,
cold here. I
wow.
brought the wrong clothes, and then yeah, as soon as you go down, you're like, oh, never mind, it is still hot.
Actually, I actually have that in one of my questions. So where I heard you had just got back from South Dakota, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so why the traveling? Was it a vacation? You ever wanted to see it?
So it was actually a two-parter. I originally was going because I was signing at the author event Wild Deadwood Reads,
Mm-hmm.
which they have every year. This was the first year I got to go in. And the reason I signed up to go is because my best friend in Kansas moved out to South Dakota last year, and she lives about an hour from where the event was. So it was a two-part reason. We went to go see my friend that we haven't seen in a year since she moved, and then to also attend the author signing as a author. So it was nice.
Now, have you been to South Dakota before?
No, that was my first time ever being in that state. The I've been to Colorado, I've been to Nebraska, but I've never been South Dakota. So that was the first time for me.
Now, if I had to ask you, what would you point out to me that I had to see when I went to South Dakota? What would it be?
Mount Rushmore. Everybody says
Mount
it, and
Rush.
you're like, well, do I really need to? Yes, you really need to go see Mount Rushmore. It is very cool. Um,
Really?
it's one of those things like you don't need to go very long, like you don't have to spend hours and hours there, but you need to see
Mm-hmm.
it. It is really neat to see. And then my friend, she works at the Crazy Horse Museum, which is like the Native Americans Mount Rushmore,
Mm-hmm.
which is also very impressive. So those would be, the two. They're pretty close together as far as distance wise. So those would be what I'd be like, you need to go see that.
Nice. Now, I did put it in my notes because you had it on your Facebook wall, but I did write down the Wild Dead Reads event. So tell me, how did that go? First off, let's back it up just a little bit. Tell me how you got interested to go there. Were you invited? Did you see it? Tell me how that came about.
So Author World, I'm sure you understand, is very extensive. I have I have a
Yes.
lot of author friends who go to all of these different events throughout the country. So you hear about all these events in other states and other places. In Kansas, we don't really have a lot. We have one. We have Flirty
hmm
in Kansas City that's put on by Anytime Author Promotions. So that's really the only one I've been able to go to as far as travel. This year, my husband and I made the choice to travel more. So I talked to friends who were, in the author community. And I was like, which signings would you recommend that were, a good experience and preferably not in Kansas or, you
Yeah.
know, super far. And I
hmm
had quite a few friends who have attended the Wild Deadwood Reads in the past, and they always spoke very highly of it. The people who put on the event are fantastic people. The authors who are there for attending are, super polite, super lovely people. So it was one of those, I was like, well, my friend lives there now. I've never been, I've never, been around that area. So let's just try it.
hmm
So it was a nice new opportunity for me.
Nice. I've done a few events in my life. Um, I'll be honest with you. I've always ever seen the pleasantries of them. I stopped doing them quite a bit because of the travel quality of it. Especially then we got COVID. It was kind of like a mute point then after
Yep.
that. But I haven't ever seen the unpleasantries. But a few people that I knew were going to an event, and I'm not going to say names, and I never thought anything about it until I started to see a horror stream on social
Oh,
media for
I know
some of the
exactly the event you're
yeah,
talking about
okay, then
too.
yeah. Yes, yes.
I
I mean,
think
you couldn't go
everybody now knows. You don't even have to say it. We all know what you're talking about.
yes, because I've never in my life, it was brought to my attention by a really close person of mine. She may or may not be in the room. And,
I
and
had
you,
I had 5 or 6 authors who were there,
mhm,
like author friends who were there. I had 2 author friends that next morning, before everything like hit Facebook and stuff, who were like,
mm,
"Did you talk to so and so who were at that event? Oh my gosh, did you hear what happened?" And I'm like, it's like 5 a.m. my time, so I'm like,
yeah.
what is going on right now? So I messaged one of my close author friends who was there, and I was like, okay, what is going on? Why is our other author friend who didn't go telling me about stuff where you went? And so she gave me the whole list of what happened before it all hit social media. And I was flabbergasted. I have never had that experience either. I've been fortunate, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I can say that the same thing because I had ever seen or heard some of the stuff went on, and I was like, I got addicted though. I'll be honest with you, on Threads, I got addicted to it because I just at first I didn't even have Threads. It was brought to my attention that that was the place to go, so I went,
I
and I
do not
started.
have Threads, so I missed that.
Oh,
But I have, again, I had like 6 or 7 friends who went to that event. So
mhm.
whenever somebody posted about it, they sent me the link. So
It
oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it was kind of like watching a train wreck, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a horrible thing, and you're like, you're so, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible," and you're glad you're not there, but you just can't turn away. You're like,
Well,
"Wow."
the ironic, funny part for me is I had applied to go to that event. I wanted to be at that
Mm,
event as an author, and I was denied. They didn't. I didn't meet their specifications of being a new author to go. So
wow,
I was
really?
upset at first, like, oh man, like all of my friends are going and they couldn't understand why I didn't get in. And then all of this stuff happened. And I was like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, I am so
I
glad they denied me.
yeah, I don't think I've ever, uh, applied to go to an event that I'd been turned away, so that even there is interesting. But what from what I read was that they had the establishment that they were booked at had booked another event at the same time, and that became a big fiasco in the whole sense of the word.
See, I didn't hear
Um,
that part. I
oh,
heard
you didn't?
that the hosts, because they had scheduled different types of events around the signing part, that they messed up their own schedule and scheduled like different like name brand authors to speak during a signing portion that was supposed to be, just for signing. So I didn't hear that
Yeah,
the hotel or whatever that was, that the convention center
yeah.
or whatever, I didn't hear that they double booked. I heard that the hosts themselves were the ones that kind of messed up their own schedule as far as like where they had people going at what time.
Right. From what I understand, now mind you, my understanding was just from what I read on Threads, okay? So, um, apparently from what I understand is that there was another book scheduled at the establishment, and those people, I think it was generally a lot of men, don't quote me on that, but I believe it was a lot of men, and they were coming in some inebriated, some, you know what I mean, not even in
Yeah.
places that they should have been. And then I did hear about what you were talking about where they were supposed to have a talking, and then the people would go in and flash the lights and tell you to get your stuff and get out of the
Yeah,
rooms that
I
they
heard that
were
too.
supposed to.
The
Yeah.
the men part, I did hear that, but I heard that was during like some like dinner buffet dance thing like the night before. I don't know. I don't have Threads. Man, maybe I should get it. But there
You
is just
should.
so much different
Ah, yeah.
viewpoints that it's like I mean, you could there was hundreds of
Mm,
people there, so you could read, a different viewpoint from all 100 people, and some things are definitely going to line up, but some things are going to be
yeah.
exaggerated or confused or misunderstood. So I don't
Well,
know. In
from
the
what
end,
I'm
I was
getting,
really glad I wasn't there.
from what I'm getting from the room from Laura, apparently there had been a pharmaceutical event and then there was some sort of military event going on. So three events at the same time. No other book event, just other conferences happening there.
Ah,
So yeah, the establishment had, and then maybe there wasn't put limitations onto the other people that come in for other conference, and they just thought, oh, we can go here and we can do this, and there wasn't any real
right.
limitation on that. I mean, I don't know if that would have been
It's
more the
awesome.
establishment's problem than who
Well,
booked it. But yeah.
all of the events I've ever attended as an author, all the author events I've attended have been free to the general public.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
a lot of them do have, like, VIP tickets where you get to have early access, and you get some swag and you get some cool stuff to,
Oh yeah.
for purchasing that VIP ticket. But there still is a general admission free event. So I don't know how that event worked. From what I understood, there was no free general admission. You had to buy a ticket to go.
Mm.
So if people were just trying to walk in, that's both on the coordinators and, whatever volunteers they had who were supposed to be checking tickets. Like, if you're not
Yeah.
checking tickets and people are just walking in, then you're going to have a huge uproar, which is, from what I understood, what happened.
Well, normally, like I said, I haven't had any bad experience in the events that I did. I always found them entertaining, more the travel and everything like that. Oh yeah, Laura says a huge shit show. Sometimes
I
if
have
you're
heard
not
that
at
a lot.
sometimes if you're not at the event and you're sitting back watching on thread, those can be entertaining as well, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend. I wouldn't recommend. So now we just mentioned you'd had an event. Oh, she has PDSD. Laura. Oh, you're hilarious. PTSD from that shit show. Gotcha.
You know what? And I don't even think she's the only one.
Probably not. I heard a lot of horror stories. I mean, I don't want to mention any names because let's cross fingers that it was just a fluke, you know what I mean? And it wasn't something that they might even be embarrassed about themselves. So that's another reason I don't want to call them
Yeah.
out for
But we
anything.
all know. We all know who
Oh
we're talking
yeah, we all know. If you're not in the loop, I'm sorry.
If you're not in the loop, you have been hiding under a rock the past few months.
Right. Right.
That might not be a bad thing.
No, yeah, no. According to some things, it might not be a bad thing. So now we talked about events, and you wanted to go out of your state, which has happened to be Kansas, correct?
Yes.
Now, but you're not originally from Kansas, am I correct? It's what, New
I am
York?
not. Yeah, well, not only from New York, because when you say New York, 3/4 of the population go, oh, New York City. No, I am from the official upstate central New York area, Syracuse area of New York.
Okay. All right. So now, what made you do the move? What drawed you to Kansas from upstate?
Oh, that's a real long story. um,
Ah.
my husband was in the military. He was in the army when we got together, which is also a long story. Short version,
Mm.
we've known each other for a long time. He was gone for the army, home on leave. We got together, ended up, falling in love. The beautifulness of that. He was stationed in Oklahoma. So I moved out to Oklahoma and we got married. And then we were sent to Germany for 3 years. And
Mhm.
then after Germany, he had an option of Fort Riley, Kansas, or Fort Hood, Texas. And we both said no to Texas. So we went to Kansas, and we just kind of like fell in love with the state. It's not what I ever imagined Kansas to be. When I was
Mm.
growing up, watching like Wizard of Oz and stuff, you think flat, dry, tornadoes everywhere.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
just crazy, and like nothing there, just cornfields and cows. And we move out to Fort Riley, Kansas, and that's part of the Flint Hills. So I'm like, oh my gosh, there's hills here. What is this? And
Mm.
we now live a little closer to Kansas City because when he got out of the Army, we moved just closer to the city. And it's a beautiful area. The people are so nice. We live in more of the country um, section of Kansas City outskirts.
Hmm.
But yeah, we love it here. We have not had any instances where we're like, man, I wish we would have moved back to New York, or man, I wish I would have moved to a different state. Like we really enjoy Kansas, so we just kind of
Right.
stuck here.
Oh, I get you corn and cows because that's where I'm at. Not Kansas, but Ohio. So yeah.
Oh, I've driven through there many a times.
Well, there you go. Actually, what's funny about that? I joined their live podcast the other day, and I know them, and it was funny. I just assumed that they knew, and they said, "Yeah, that's Ari Nelson. I think she runs a podcast in Canada." And I was like, "Okay." Well, I didn't correct them because you know what I mean. They were live on the air, and I wasn't going to do that.
Ohio has a lot of signings out there.
Mm, yes. Yep. A lot.
I was just at one. I was at a signing in Ohio in April.
Oh, in April. Which one was in April?
Authors and Dancers Against Cancer.
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah,
nice. I
that's
haven't
a
ever been, but go
that's a
ahead.
that's a really fun one. It was my first year. It's a bi-yearly event, so every other year it's hosted. Um, and it's really cool. All the proceeds go to cancer patients who are or were dancers.
Hmm.
Like that was their thing. Um, and so it's a 2-day event. Friday night is the dance portion. So all of these dancers from I'm not even sure where everywhere come in and they do a little dance and like a little recital. It's very cool. And then the Saturday is the signing for the author portion, which it was very nice. It was a very well put on
Nice.
signing.
Right. Well, I haven't ever heard of that. That's very interesting. I guess I should do a little bit more of a feeler on Ohio.
A lot of
So
my author friends live in Ohio, so I know there's a ton of signings there.
nice. Well, I'm obviously out of the loop where it comes to Ohio. I'm always looking out of the state because, like, just like what you said, I kind of, if I'm going to do something, I want to kind of do like a vacation. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done Florida, but the last time we did Florida, there was also a hurricane. So I'm not sure that was a good one either.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
we've done
now,
Florida.
yeah, they have some nice ones. I really, like I said, when I do them, I like for it to be like a mini vacation too. So I like there to be something more than just me working. Um,
Yeah. We have
now when,
we have some that are like near. So if I have a couple signings that are like close to Kansas, like I have one in August that's in Arkansas. I'll go to that one by myself because it's not too far away. And it's we've been through Arkansas a couple of times, but we try to do like one or two like big events away. So like we did South Dakota. Our next big event that he'll take off time and we'll actually like do as a vacation is we have one in Branson, which technically is not far from me, but we've neither of us have ever been to Branson, and it's always been one of those places we want to go. So that's going to be like our vacation.
nice. So now when we talk book events, and we know there's a source to book events, there usually has to do because we're authors. So tell me now, I know that you've been writing for quite some time. What exactly would you say is the day-to-day time frame of your writing and when it began? How many years are we talking?
My first book published in 2016 and then
Okay.
republished in 2018. I did one of those horrible publishing companies that you should never ever actually do.
Yeah.
So I had to wait for that horribleness to, be done before I could self-publish. Now I just self-publish everything. But all of my writing time depends on the book
Hmm.
and like my mood, if I have any stress going on. My newest book that just came out last month is a trilogy, Discovering the Reapers, the first one. And that entire trilogy I wrote in the span of like 3 weeks.
Hmm.
I just wrote it straight through. I decided, it was originally just going to be one book. And then I was like, well, nope, now it's going to have to be two because it's getting kind of kind of lengthy. This is kind of changing. And then I was suddenly, oh, nope, I guess it's just going to be a trilogy. So I wrote it all out because I was like, if it's going to be a trilogy, I want it to be able to be published quick, like quick. My
Right.
witches series, that one takes a little longer, couple of years to write each book. So
Mm.
that's what I call my standalone series because they
Well,
all intertwine,
don't
but
tell me
you
too much
don't.
about that because I actually have a question for that. So don't go too
Okay.
far on the witches.
Okay.
Because
But
I
yeah, it
have
just
that one. I am saving that. I'm waiting on that one.
all right. Well, it just depends. Again, it just depends on the. I had somebody ask me that the other, like, how long does it take me to write a book? It depends on the book. Um,
Hmm.
if I'm in quite a few anthologies, and those stories don't take me too long because they're shorter, so you can pack more in quickly. You don't have to,
Hmm.
really do huge character development or any of that. So those stories I can usually knock out within a week or two, but it just depends on the flow and if the characters are talking to me or not.
Yeah. Well, before I ask the next question, I'm just going to pay homage here to a couple of comments in the text on the chat here. Mr. Deerheart says he loves historic sites for the places to go for the travel and events, and comic cons and local festivals are his favorites.
I
Just to
do
add
do I do the
that.
planet. It's called Planet Comic Con Kansas City. And
Hmm.
I do that event every year. I did take this past year off because of family issues, but yep, I do that event every year. And Comic Cons are great. I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of authors really understand, like, you think Comic Con and you're like, oh, that's for like the nerds and the people who like Star Wars and Star Trek, which don't get me wrong, I love both of those things. But there are authors that are there. And
Yeah.
when people like, I'm a romance author, and there are not a lot of romance authors at Comic Cons. And it's so cool because you'll have people who will, like, they'll come and walk by and they'll be like, oh my gosh, a romance author. Like, you don't expect that. And I do really well at Comic Cons. I enjoy them. I am a nerd at heart anyways, so I just love being there. But yeah, I try to tell my author friends, like, you underestimate the power of a Comic Con.
Oh, yeah. Um, I'll be honest with you. Did an event in Baltimore some years ago, and when I realized that there was a Comic Con across from across from where we were at, I dumped my booth. I dumped my booth and I went to Comic Con. We bought tickets and we went over and we saw oh, what is his name? Dang it. He played a musician for a year for the book series. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Can't think
no.
of his name.
Yeah,
But I took a pic. Go ahead. Oh, I lost. Did I lose you,
I think
Bethany?
I'm okay. Are you there?
Okay. Yeah, you're there. Okay. Mr. Deerhart's letting me know. By the way, just for full disclosure, Mr. Deerhart's my husband, so he's in the room. He says Dresden Files. That's who we saw. The guy that
Ah,
played for Dresden Files, and he is
okay.
massively tall. And we waited in line. I got up there and I said, I just dumped my author booth to come over here and see you. And he says, you did what? He came out around because normally you have to pay to have pictures taken with him. I didn't have to do none of
Mhm.
that. He told me he wanted to he gave me a hug and he took pictures with us all because we dumped our booth to come see him.
Yeah, I didn't have a booth at Planet Con this year, but my when my author friend did, I went and helped him out because he didn't have help this year. And Matthew Lillard was one of
Hmm.
the guest actors who was there. So I went and stood in line for like 6 hours
Yeah.
to meet him. He's
I,
super nice, so freaking tall, the kindest
yeah.
man on the planet. And I told him, I go, I'm an author, and I would really love to, like, put you in a book. And he goes, absolutely, do it.
I'll be honest with you, and I'll make this the last con that we're talking about, another event, because I have quite a few questions I want to ask you. But I'll tell you what I would love to go see, and I'm sure people have, is Supernatural. I even after they've been off the air, I still love going back and watching the series. I love the cast and the people that were played on the show. I just find them amazing.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've only watched the first four seasons.
Oh,
Because it got to the point where I was literally refusing to go to bed because I wanted to watch all, like, I just wanted to
oh.
straight binge watch. And
It's so addicting.
I was like, okay, exactly. That was my problem. I was like, no, I'm now literally addicted to this show and I gotta stop. So
Hmm.
I stopped watching it. I had to stop. But
Yeah,
I
I'm
know all the
addicted.
characters and I love them and
Yes.
uh
I could
I would
watch it
love to meet
again.
them.
I've just recently rewatched it, and I watched the last season, which I put off because I'll be honest with you, I was upset that they were going to stop putting it on the air. So I stopped watching for the last season. Then I finally went back and I watched them from the beginning again and watched them all again. And I'm sorry, but they could have been walking in walkers, and I still would have watched that show, even as old as they got. I would have still done it. Would have still done it. So now, when we talk series, let's talk about something else that has the potential to be a phenomenal series. And this is from you, and it is from the Soul Bond series, Discovering the Reaper. Tell me about this series and this first book.
So it's the first book of currently a trilogy, though I have beta readers who are begging for more. Um, so the first book is focused on kind of introducing you to the character Theta, who is the main female character, and then Galen, who is the main male character. Galen is Theta's best friend, Mercedes' guardian angel.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this post apocalyptic world where hell has taken over, guardian angels take their wards to like a safe zone, a safe building. So they've been trying to track Mercedes for a long time. They finally, find her and take her to this building, but she has Theta with her. And as much as they don't really want to take outsiders, they'll take her just to keep this ward safe. So it's a lot of Theta and Galen kind of butting heads. She's attracted to him, he's attracted to her, but they don't understand why. He, as a guardian angel, is not supposed to be attracted to people. All of the angels keep telling her that she's not a human. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because her and Mercedes both grew up in an orphanage. And so the first book is just a lot of like trying to discover who Theta really is. And the whole series focuses on the fact that hell took over because the Grim Reaper went missing. And so the first book, you're meeting Theta and Galen and Mercedes. You're meeting the other two background characters, Turiel and Zach. And it's just kind of like how these relationships bloomed in this post-apocalyptic world. And then um, it moves into the second book, which I don't want to give away too much because it's not out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of continues that journey of the Grim Reaper is missing, and why, where is he, and how do we get him back so that all the demons can go back to hell, and humans can go back to not living in fear.
Mm-hmm. I'm
So
intrigued. I am intrigued. I'm kind of, I mean, I would have, if you hadn't said you didn't want to tell too much, I kind of would have let you tell too much.
I always have to stop myself because I'm like, I love talking about this trilogy
Mm,
because it was one of those books that just hit me. And
right.
I was driving to work one day and I was listening to, the radio, and they were talking about how words and names are acronyms. And they were talking about acronyms for the word death. And I was like, I could think of an acronym for that. And that's how I came up with Theta. So Theta's name is the acronym for death. You can move her letters around and it
Mm,
spells death. Um, and so then I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, I have this amazing idea. It's like angels and demons. It's, post-apocalyptic, something to do with Grim Reaper. How am I going to make this work? And, I gave her the whole rundown of like what my characters were doing and how they would all intertwine in some way. And she was like, you need to write this. You need to
mm.
write this because I need to read this.
Sometimes I find that the most interesting. I don't like to always finish my books in my head or write them down as far as plot because I'm infused. I mean, it's like I'm reading a new book, and if I know too much about it before I'm writing it, I get burned out with it. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So it's
Yep.
kind of like, yeah. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, oh cool. It's like you're reading the first book yourself while you're writing it. So yeah, to be
I'm what
honest
they
with,
call a plancer. So I'm not a pantser
yeah,
and I'm not a planner. I'm like both. So the
yeah,
most I usually plan, well, the Witches series is a totally different thing. But for a lot of my books, the most I usually plan is like names and like looks, like how they look. Because I don't want to be writing like, oh, her and her blonde hair, and then like 4 chapters later, oh, her and her black hair. Like, oh, wait a minute, her hair is
mm,
blonde. What did I do?
yeah,
So the most I
yeah,
really write down is like character names and what they look like, their descriptions, and then like if I'm writing the story and something major happens, I'll make a note of it. Like, oh
yeah,
hey, in chapter 3, they jump off a cliff. Like that's something I might need to know later. But it
yeah.
happened like I write it down after I've already written it, if that makes sense.
No, I get you. I get you. So now we've alluded, and I've kind of paused you on my favorite because I wanted to hear more about it. I like I said, I love to do research on every person who's been on my show. So when I saw your book covers for The Witch's Savior and The Witch's Soul, I was immediately intrigued. I want to know more about this series. Can you give me the dirt?
Yeah, so a huge shout out to my lovely cover designer. The Witch's Savior, that's the first book. That's actually a recover to match The Witch's Soul. Because
Hmm.
my first cover, which I loved and it was beautiful, it didn't really tie in the whole series. So she recovered it and she's fabulous. Lauren is the best and I love her. Um, so it's my Five Witches series. So each book is one of the main five witches of this coven, the Starlight Coven, which is in based in Syracuse, New York. The series is the four girls in the series are me and three of my best friends. I decided I wanted to write a book about witches and have all of this romance and love stuff and like incorporate a lot of things that had happened in my life and in their life as us as friends. I called them one day, said, I'm going to write a book. You're going to be a character. Tell me your name, what you look like, what you do, all of this stuff. So a few people know, but now everybody can. Those characters are completely based off three of my best friends. Trinity is based off of me.
Hmm.
And she's the head high priestess. She's the main character in book one, and then the other three are my three best girlfriends. Two of which live in New York, and one lives in Texas. And I don't know. I love that series. It's one of the best series I have because I'm so invested in it, but it takes me
Hmm.
so long to write it.
Now you currently have, is it two out of, you're going to go five, right? So you have
Correct.
2 out of 5. Is that what I'm looking at correctly?
I have 2.5 out of 5
Two and a
actually.
half. Okay, 2.5
So
out of 5.
they're book one and two are the main characters, and then I have what I call point five. It's called The Witch's Coven. It's 5 short stories that center around the back characters of the coven, the other 10 characters that are in the coven. And it started off as like one of the stories was just part of an anthology. And I had a friend who was like, this was really cool. It's more of a YA feel. So like I could read it to my 13-year-old. And do you have more? So I ended up writing the 5 short stories. All of their stories take place during the first book,
Hmm.
but all of those stories are YA appropriate, um, and they're all set in the winter time. So all of the bad guys and stuff are all like winter mythological beings. So I thought that was
Nice.
kind of fun.
That's nice. Now, you mentioned anthology, and I find that interesting because this just applauds my research. But you talk about anthologies, and because of a little bit, from what I understand, I could be wrong, but I think that I ran past the book that this witch series based off of the anthology. That is on Amazon, correct?
Uh The Witches Coven was in Flirty in Kansas City.
Yeah, because one you can't get anymore. I think one of the anthologies you cannot get anymore.
2023. All of the anthologies I'm in, besides Snowflakes and Sleigh Bells, you can't get anymore. They
Okay.
are anthologies that are specifically created for the event.
Hmm.
Um, so the person, our host who does the events, she formats the books and prints the books. She has them for sale on her, on Amazon for a little bit for the event, and then once the event's over, she takes it down. So
Right.
most of the time, you can only get those anthologies if an author bought extra copies to sell.
Right.
Um,
Well, one thing that I found interesting was just looking at what I thought was coming from that. So I may be good, or I may have got it completely wrong.
Well, the first anthology I was ever in, which was called Dirty Fairy Tales, that was out for quite a while.
Hmm.
My novella, Down Where It's Wetter, my mermaid story, was from that book. So
Okay.
once we got the rights back, I fixed it a little bit, made it a smidge longer, and then published that as its own little novella. So you're not
Okay.
wrong.
Okay. Well, it sounded better the first time around, but that's all right. I like to pump myself up a little bit that I'm good at something. Come on, Bethany, work with me here.
You're a fantastic researcher.
All right, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. No, but anyways, when I caught the gist, I would, like I said, I like to go through your books, and I always like to find little connections. I'm actually scrolling here. Yes, it is the Dirty Fairy Tales that was down at the bottom,
Hmm.
and there was another of Survivor anthologies. But I love the fact that people are involved in the anthologies, and I love it when a book is based off of that. Like when you have a touch of it in an anthology, and then you like go for it. um, I had that happen to me in my very first book I ever wrote. But I didn't get accepted into the anthology, but it started a, you know what I mean? It started something
Hmm.
for me. So anytime that I see that from somebody else, I'm always more intrigued about that author, maybe because it's closer to my own connection. So tell me about anthologies. Now, how many have you done
Oh
accordingly
my
so
goodness.
far?
I have done one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight,
Mm.
7 or 8. I'm losing count. Um, Dirty Fairy Tales was my first one that I ever did. The Survivor anthology, which not many people know about that, which is it's weird to hear about it because I mean obviously I know about it, but not many people do. Um, that was kind of an on the whim thing that I never went past writing that story. So I have the story in the anthology, but I never like did what I did with Down Where It's Wetter, where I made it its own like novella. It's only in that anthology. It's the only place you can read it besides off my computer. Um, but most of my anthologies are for signings. So Anytime Author Promotions is the main company that I go to signings for because I know the host and I'm friends with the host. And I gave her the idea of, hey, for Kansas City, maybe we can do like a group anthology where the people who are going to be attending, the authors attending, can put in a story, and then we can all sign the books when the readers come around. They can buy the book from you guys, and then they can come and we'll sign their copy, and then that also gets them to our table, and they can meet us, and we can try to get them to read our other stuff. So I've got 3 Flirty in Kansas Cities, and then the Getting Witchy with It in Salem is
Mm.
another one. That was a huge anthology. There were a total of 10 books with 10 stories
Nice.
each.
Nice. That is a pretty good one. I've never heard of it in a series when they do an anthology.
Well, there were so many authors that wanted to be in on the anthology that they were
Hmm.
just like, all right, 10 authors per book. There's 10 books total. So the way they formatted it, it ended up being like 3 paperbacks. But when you go like on Amazon, you could buy each individual book of 10, if that makes sense.
Nice. Yes, that does. Very nice. So, as my last question of the evening to you, with the heat of the summer coming down upon us, What is applying heat to your next book? Tell me what the inspiration is and tell me when we expect it.
So I actually, well, my friend who's trying to get me to finish a used to be anthology piece and put it out as a novella. Um, that one was another, it was supposed to be an anthology. It was supposed to kind of be like dirty fairy tales, and
Mm,
but it was supposed to be villains. So originally the story started out as like a play on Maleficent because she's like my favorite. But
mm.
it's like you read the story, it has nothing to do with that. It just ended up
Right.
being a story that I really enjoyed, and it's supposed to be out in October.
Hmm.
Hopefully it will be. I'm still working on finishing it because I got sidetracked by my what I'm calling my secret project that
Mm.
only 3 or 4 people know about. One being my cover designer because she had to design the cover for it. I don't know when that will be out. It will be out before the end of this year because it is done. I finished writing the end yesterday. Um, so yeah, I have a secret project. If you are part of my group on Facebook, Bethany's Witches, that's where I kind of post all of my stuff first, and so
Mm.
they got to see the graphic for the um, cover reveal coming soon. Kind of gives
Nice.
them a chance to like guess what the book is based off of, and I can say it is making one of my standalones into a series.
Nice. I'm very intrigued.
So
Very intrigued.
that's my heats going on. I have my was supposed to be an anthology turned into a novella, and then my new secret project.
Nice. I wait on pins and needles until the release date then.
I don't. I'm waiting for the release date too because I have no idea when it's going to be yet.
Oh, cool beans. That is exciting, though. I mean, it's nice to have something that you have that much excitement for and you get to release it and that nobody knows. That's even more enticing. Congratulations on
Thank you. I also appreciate you saying "cool beans" because I feel like nobody knows that saying anymore.
that. I'm old.
I am too, and that's why I'm like, oh yes, she knows that what that is.
Laura says she knows what it is too. She says I do too. So we've reached that point in the show, guys. This is the Amazon deal of the day. I always try to pick something. I get a lot of comments on this. People seem to like it, and that thrills me to no end. So today is, and I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this wrong because pronunciation is not my friend. It is the Tozo O2 True Open Ear Wireless Headphones, lightweight, multiple angles adjustments, Bluetooth 5.3 earbuds, dual access design for long lasting comfort. The crystal clear calls for driving, and they come in multiple colors. I have this kick now where I'm into pink because of my front porch, but they come in multiple colors and they look awesome. I love the over the ear type. This is 30% off, guys. It is 55.90, but I also like to try to give you it's down from 79.99. But here's the interesting thing about this. I found a pair that you can get saved with new and used. I don't know if you guys do that, and I don't know, it kind of may be iffy putting something in your ear if you heard used. But I've also gotten to some things where it's still in the box. It's just returned because the size or something was wrong. So again, that might not have been the best example as far as earphones, but hey, I'm trying here, guys. I'm going to put the link in the bio for you for anyone who's interested. I do love a pair of earphones that you can put over your ear. They are divine if you can find the right set. And these are awesome. We have a pair. Just letting you guys know. I want to
I'm
thank you so much. I know, right? I try. I really try on this, Bethany. I do. I know sometimes it looks like I just seat by the pants here, but I really do try sometimes. Just
I'm gonna
some.
have to go get me some of those.
I know it, right? I mean, I keep them and then I break them and I buy some more and I break them. But anyways, but I do love the over the ear. I want to thank you so much, Bethany, for being on the program. You were a delight. I really enjoyed talking with you. I'm thoroughly and through and tongue tied. And I'm totally excited about your witches books. As soon as I saw them, I knew I had to get my hands on them. So you might see some purchases coming from that.
Well, book
I'd
three
love to.
is hopefully going to be out at the end of the year too.
Oh, nice. I love it when there's more than one. So, like, my reading can continue. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But, anyways, I'd love to have you back anytime you want to come back. So, please join us again. Thank you, our listeners. Until next time, guys. Bye bye for now.